On the night of February 2nd, 1959, in the heart of the Ural Mountains, something terrible happened. 9 experienced Soviet hikers, led by Igor Dyatlov, embarked on an expedition that should have been challenging but manageable. Instead, it became one of history's most chilling and perplexing unsolved mysteries. They never returned. What happened on that frozen slope, a place now known as Dyatlov Pass? Let's uncover the facts of this haunting story. Our story begins in late January 1959. 10 students and graduates from the Ural Polytechnical Institute, 8 men and 2 women, set off on a ski trek to Ural Mountain in the northern Urals. This was a Category 3 expedition, the highest difficulty rating. These were not amateurs. They were seasoned, tough, and well prepared for the harsh Siberian winter. Early in the journey, one member, Yuri Yudin, had to turn back due to severe joint pain. This decision, born of disappointment, would ultimately save his life. The remaining 9, led by the capable Igor Dyatlov, pressed on, documenting their journey with cameras and diaries. The group's last diary entry, dated January 31st, shows them reaching the highland area and preparing to climb. They were in good spirits, full of camaraderie and adventure. On February 1st, they began moving through the pass, intending to make camp on the other side. However, deteriorating weather conditions, including worsening visibility from snowstorms and high winds, likely caused them to lose their direction and drift west, toward the top of a mountain named Kolet Syakhl, which ominously translates to Dead Mountain in the local Monsey language. Realizing their mistake, they decided to set up camp right there on the exposed slope, rather than retreating to the safety of the treeline below. This was their first and last fatal error. They were due to send a telegraph on February 12th. When no message came, it wasn't immediately alarming. Delays were common on such expeditions. But as the days turned into weeks, their families grew frantic. On February 20th, a full-scale search and rescue operation was launched. What the search party found on February 26th was beyond anyone's worst nightmare. They discovered the group's tent, half buried in snow and badly damaged. But it wasn't damaged from the outside. It had been sliced open from the inside. Inside the tent, all the group's belongings, their winter coats, shoes, equipment, and food, were left behind, neatly arranged. It was as if they had fled in a sudden, desperate panic. But what could cause 9 experienced hikers to slash their way out of their only shelter and run into the brutal, sub-zero wilderness, some of them barefoot and wearing only their sleepwear? The trail of footprints leading from the tent was the next bizarre clue. The tracks showed 8 or 9 people walking, not running, in a calm, orderly fashion down the slope toward a dense forest about a mile away. There was no sign of a struggle, no evidence of other people, and no indication of an animal attack. The footprints simply stopped, covered by later snowfall. Under a large cedar tree at the edge of the forest, the rescuers made their first grim discovery: the bodies of Yuri Krivonischenko and Yuri Doroshenko. They were dressed only in their underwear, barefoot. The branches of the cedar tree were broken up to 5 meters high, suggesting someone had tried to climb it, perhaps to get a better view or escape a threat. Nearby, the remains of a small fire were found. It was clear the two had tried desperately to stay warm, but ultimately succumbed to hypothermia. A short distance away, between the cedar tree and the camp, 3 more bodies were found: Igor Dyatlov, Zinaida Kolmogorova, and Rustam Slobodin. Their positions suggested they were trying to crawl back up the hill to the tent. Dyatlov was found clutching a tree branch, his gaze fixed in the direction of the camp. Zinaida had signs of a struggle, perhaps against the elements in her final moments. Slobodin had a small crack in his skull, though doctors later deemed it non-fatal. Like the others, they had all frozen to death. The search for the remaining 4 hikers took over 2 months. Their bodies were finally found on May 4th, buried under more than 10 feet of snow in a ravine 75 meters deeper into the woods from the cedar tree. And this is where the mystery deepens into sheer horror. Unlike the first 5, these 4 had suffered devastating internal injuries. Nicholas the Bobrignol's had a major skull fracture. Lyudmila Dubinina and Semyon Zolotaryov had crushed chests, with injuries described by the medical examiner as being equivalent to the force of a high-speed car crash. Yet, bafflingly, their bodies showed almost no external signs of trauma. There were no soft tissue injuries, no bruises on the surface. It was as if they had been crushed by an immense, yet precise, pressure. To make things even stranger, Lyudmila Dubinina was missing her tongue, eyes, and part of her lips. The official investigation was hastily concluded in May 1959, just 3 months after it began. The final report stated that the hikers died as a result of a compelling natural force they were unable to overcome. The case was closed, and the files were classified, fueling decades of speculation and conspiracy theories. What was this compelling natural force? Let's explore the most prominent theories. The first and most widely accepted scientific explanation is a rare type of slab avalanche. The theory suggests that the hikers cut into the snowpack to set up their tent, unknowingly destabilizing it. Hours later, a slab of snow slid down, not burying the tent completely, but crushing part of it and causing a panic. The sudden shock and potential initial injuries could have prompted them to slash their way out and retreat to the tree-line to regroup. Those with severe internal injuries could have been crushed by this initial snow slab. The missing tongue? Likely the result of natural decay and scavenging by small animals in the wet environment of the ravine. Another theory points to infrasound. This involves a weather phenomenon called a Kármán vortex street, where wind moving over the mountain peak creates a series of low-frequency sound waves. This infrasound is inaudible to humans, but can induce intense feelings of panic, nausea, and dread, which could have driven the hikers to irrationally flee their tent. While plausible, it doesn't fully explain the massive internal injuries. Of course, no mystery like this is complete without more fringe theories. Some people believe the hikers were attacked by the local Mansi people for trespassing on sacred land. However, the investigation found no evidence of this. The injuries were not consistent with a human attack, and the Mansi were known to be peaceful. Then there are the UFO and secret weapon testing theories. Some witnesses reported seeing strange orange spheres in the sky that night. The fact that some of the hikers' clothing was found to be slightly radioactive has been used to support the idea of a military experiment gone wrong. However, the radiation levels were low and could be explained by other sources. Decades later, in 2019, the Russian government reopened the case. Their conclusion, announced in 2020, largely supported the slab avalanche theory. They created a detailed model showing how a delayed avalanche could have occurred, forcing the group to flee. Poor visibility would have prevented them from finding their tent again, leading to their tragic deaths from hypothermia and the injuries sustained. But even with this official conclusion, doubts remain. Why did they walk, not run, from the tent? Why try to return if they feared another avalanche? And how does an avalanche produce such specific, crushing chest injuries without any external bruising? The missing tongue of Lyudmila Dubinina is another point that many find hard to attribute solely to natural decomposition. The Dyatlov Pass Incident is a perfect storm of bizarre clues, conflicting evidence, and an information vacuum created by a secretive Soviet government. It's a human tragedy that challenges our understanding of logic and the natural world. Was it a freak weather event, a military cover-up, or something else entirely? Every piece of evidence seems to open up more questions than answers. The 9 diaries, the cameras, the slashed tent, the horrific injuries, they are all silent witnesses to a night of terror on Dead Mountain. The truth, it seems, was buried with them in the snow. What do you think happened on that fateful night? Let me know your theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching. And if you found this mystery as fascinating as I do, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the unknown. See you next time.